Listeners, you must have, or maybe you haven't heard about this word, kinesiology. Now, whenever we talk about healing, especially this particular version of healing, that looks invisible from the outside, there is no dramatic turning point. There is no just single conversation or just magical moment that changes everything. It's just a body that has been holding something heavy for years. And then it is slowly and slowly, quietly learning to let it go. So, kinesiology might not be the first word that comes up when we talk about healing from abuse. But for many women out there, it has been the bridge between knowing they needed to heal and actually being able to feel it. And today, we are going to sit with that. So, welcome back, listeners, to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Sana, your host. And yes, this is the space where we have honest, grounded conversations about what it truly means to take care of your mental and emotional health, not just on the good days, but especially on the hard ones. And listeners, today's episode is going to be a bit tender and very important because today I'm sitting with someone. So she's a kinesiologist, she's an author, survivor who runs a clinic specializing in supporting women and children who have experienced abusive relationships. She's the author of Finding My Way Back to Me. And through her own lived journey of 17 years in an emotionally and financially abusive relationship, she now helps others moving from surviving to truly living. So, listeners, let's welcome our incredible guest, Amanda J. Scott. Amanda, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really honored having you here.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show today. Thank you, and hello to all the listeners out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Amanda, before we get into the kinesiology, the work that you do with women and children, uh, I would love to start. I would like to start with something personal because your path to this work, it's not just research or it's coming from a textbook, but it actually came from life. It actually came from lived experiences.
Yeah.
For you, what was that moment, or maybe it's maybe season, your realization that made you think that you want to help other women the way you wished someone would have helped you?
Well, I experienced domestic abuse in a marriage for 17 years, yet for the longest time of that, I didn't realize that what I was living with was abuse
Mm.
because abuse takes many forms and it's often hidden, whether it's emotional, financial, sexual or physical or spiritual, it creates a feeling of shame in the abuse that keeps them stuck. You see, nobody wants to feel unloved and uncared for. So we make excuses for our partner's behavior rather than accept the truth that we are being abused. So that's why I wanted to share my lived experience to shine more light on this issue, as my greatest hope is for people to become have support and become aware that everybody deserves the opportunity to heal and grow from an abusive relationship.
Mm. And one very important aspect, or this, I shouldn't say pattern, Amanda, but uh, first of all, yes, I'm speaking from my perspective, that either we do not want to actually say it out loud because there could be multiple reasons in there. One primarily being that um, there is fear. We are, or we think that it's going to um, trouble people out there, or
Mm.
sometimes it can be that control, that not manipulation, that control, that force, that from all the sides, from all the sides, emotionally, financially, that we cannot see any option out there to go out and share this with or report this, or do something, take an action about it. So, and then also, one thing which I kind of find it very interesting is, people on the other side, they would, and this is not to kind of remark, or just um uh, take a uh, or give an idea that people are insensitive, but still, whenever, especially when it comes to domestic abuse, or emotionally, or physically abusive relationships, um people would have to kind of assume that, uh why don't you get out of that? Yeah, just get out of that. Just break up, or file for a divorce and get out of it.
That
Honestly, it's not that easy.
no, and this is one of the first and the most powerful step a woman can take is to actually admit it and acknowledge it that she is in an abusive relationship. I mean, it might sound simple, as you said, to someone on the outside, but
Yeah.
when you are living in it, it is one of the hardest truths to face because we make excuses. We normalize the behavior and we tell ourselves it's not that bad, especially when there are no broken bones or bruises to prove the pain. But you see, the emotional and the financial abuse erodes your spirit over time. And
Yeah,
sometimes these wounds are the hardest to name and heal.
absolutely.
So the first step is that acknowledging it because we really need to find out, okay, so what is a healthy relationship? What is it? We need to have clarity over what it is. And it is a place of safety, of love, of respect, of mutual growth. But when abuse is present, whether that's emotional or financial or spiritual or physical, it strips away at those foundations and it leaves you living in survival. And
Mm.
so without a healthy love, this is our health suffers.
Yeah, it is.
So it's really coming back to having clarity what it is, because that's why we normalize a behavior. We put up with a lot. In my case, abuse grew slowly, and what started out as one incident of disrespect became two and three
Mm.
until eventually it became the way I lived.
Yeah.
So, I was told I was stupid. So it didn't take long before I believed that. And that meant that each time I was treated badly, it became my fault because I thought if I was better, things
Mhm.
would be better. So this is how, it happens gradually, slowly. So the first step is really to acknowledge it and to have clarity. What is that healthy relationship? Because in a healthy relationship, there is freedom.
Mm.
You can actually speak your truth. And
Exactly.
you can make mistakes and you can set boundaries and still be loved. But the most important thing is respect is not negotiable. It is the baseline.
And sorry to interrupt, Amanda.
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't have to put a different character on, or put a different mask on. When you come back home, you are with your partner. You don't have to pretend, because you are kind of conforming to the expectations, to the standards, unfortunately. And secondly, and this kind of, it will definitely connect with the conversation further we are going to have, is how the body, uh, it starts to record those emotional, those thoughts, those feelings,
Yeah.
those reactions, and it kind of manifests in the body. And we gradually, the person who's going through, they gradually could realize that yes, my body is trying to scream out loud. But
Yeah.
yeah, even
Absolutely, because emotional health, some, uh, you know, that was something that ignored for years.
mm,
I smiled through the pain. I dressed up to cover that heartbreak that I felt.
mm,
And I thought if I kept going, if I kept holding it all together, it would all be okay.
yeah.
But what I came to understand is that emotional health is just as important as your physical health because our bodies, they hold on to those emotions, the emotions that we refuse to feel, the words that we never say. So when we push those down and when we suppress those emotions, they
Mm,
don't disappear. They don't disappear. They store in the body as tension, uh, exhaustion, illness. So the first thing is the healing begins. Well, it began for me when I stopped running away from those emotions and when I started to listen to them. And I had time, to check in to see how I felt
mm,
and just noticing it. And I think that's really the start of it. That's the start. My starting point didn't begin after the abuse ended. It began while I was still in it.
mm,
Those tiny little acts of awareness um, in an environment where you don't yet have the options. But, my first empowered steps, to say,
mhm,
weren't visible to anyone else. They were internal. I was noticing when something didn't feel right.
mm,
I was registering it, instead of dismissing it, allowing myself to think it doesn't make sense, even if I couldn't say that out loud. Because when you are controlled, taking decisive action can actually feel unsafe.
mm. And you were talking about the steps, yeah. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
But also healing, I must say that healing, once I'll come back to this, once you've admitted it, right, that cracks open that door.
Mm,
Yeah. And you might not know all the answers, right? You might not be ready to take
mm,
that next step. But by simply admitting it, it cracks open to that door to freedom. And this is when you start to, when you begin the journey back to you.
mm,
And you just need to make one decision, that I will not live like this any longer because to reclaim your power. Because walking on eggshells, being afraid, being silenced, questioning your own worth is not the way to live. That is not love, and that is not life. And it's certainly not a healthy life. So it's really, um, yeah, about admitting it. And because once you've done that, you start to prioritize your own needs. And for me, I needed to get to the park. And I went to the park. I needed to have space to breathe. So your self-care is really important as you're going through any, uh, well, your self-care is number one, really, because often we condition ourselves to think that we should come last, that we're more loving and loyal and good if we come last. But that's not true. We only become more lost. So self-care is the next step to take once you've admitted it.
mm.
Yeah. So healing, it doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single decision. It's a daily commitment, which I'm still doing today because, you know, each time you choose yourself, when you speak up, even though
Mm.
even though your voice may be trembling at first, when you rest, when you cry, when you pour yourself a cup of tea, when you go to the park like I did, instead of returning to the chaos, you are reclaiming those pieces of yourself, those lost pieces of yourself. And that's how it's done, by slowly rebuilding yourself so that you're, you know, when you start proving to
Mm.
yourself, self
Mm.
care is about when you start proving to yourself in a real tangible ways that your well being is worth protecting. It's a daily commitment to say that I
Mm.
matter. I matter, to go to the park, just to spend some time there. It's always my reset button that I go to even now. So really, it's about every time, you honor your needs, you rebuild that self-worth. And every moment you choose yourself, it's not being selfish. You are actually strengthening the belief that you deserve the life you are creating.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Amanda, you know, kinesiology, for someone, let's say, who has never experienced a kinesiology session. In fact, for me as well, I would also love to know. Can you walk us through what it might feel like for a woman who comes in, carrying years of something she hasn't been able to name it yet?
Well, that's right. Yes. I mean, people come to me that have been experiencing it or going through it at the moment, or come to the stage, well, what now? What do I do? So, really, I think the most first step is some people don't know whether it is abuse or it's not abuse, or it's like identifying it, whether it's so that first acknowledgement. And my story is not about telling women what they should do and shouldn't do, because it's all about that every woman's path is every woman's path is different. Everybody does it at the right time, at the right pace. There's no time. But what I want them to see is that their feelings they have, that confusion or the exhaustion or that loss of self, that's real and that's valid. So
Mm.
sometimes when someone hears a story like, of my story, that reflects their own experience, and something shifts. It creates a small opening where truth can enter. So really, with that kinesiology is really about finding that first step. The first step is that acknowledging what is going on. And it's not about judging, it's just about simply, seeing it clearly. And then once I've seen that clearly, and once I saw that clearly, then I needed clarity. So that's when you start to understand that, the shame you've been carrying, it may not belong to you. You begin to see the patterns, the beliefs that were placed on you, conditioned, the ways you slowly lost connection with your own voice and worth. So you need to have that clarity to make sense out of it. Because once you make sense out of it, you can shift to the next stage. So this is where you want to begin to understand yourself again, that clarity. And then with that, then once you have that clarity, then you can build momentum. you can start moving forward. It doesn't mean that you've got to dramatic big changes overnight. It's just those small steps. As I said, those small steps, walking in the park, giving yourself space to breathe, to know what it feels like to be in peace amongst the trees, amongst the birds, to be able to allow yourself to feel that. So each small step builds that trust within yourself. And so we go through
Hmm.
with kinesiology, muscle testing, finding out what are those beliefs that we need to change. Yeah. Do you deserve, are you worthy of that? And we are all like that, we are worthy. But, the, um, one of the self-belief is the start of changing everything in your world. The easiest thing is to blame other people, but it's not until we deserve more and we will not accept abuse any longer that
Mm.
things can actually start to change. So for abuse to stop believing in yourself and know your self-worth. So we get into the values and we get into that because, you know, for a long time, I lived in a world where I'd forgotten my values and I allowed others to define it for me.
Mm.
So this is really about coming back to your true self, yeah, and to your integrity with yourself.
Absolutely.
And this is having support. So I give women support to get through this difficult patch. Because, when you change and you change your beliefs and you change your behaviors, then
Mhm.
it means sometimes you're disappointing other people. You have to have those difficult conversations. Yeah. And it might mean, standing in your truth.
Mm.
But with each, choice that you're making, aligned that is true to you, that's when your trust returns and your emotional stability returns as well. So it's building and helping and supporting women to find their strength and confidence to get through this, to reconnect with themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Amanda, I know we are short on time, but still, before we wrap up, for someone listening to this right now who hasn't told anyone yet, not a friend, not a family member, not a professional, but someone who is still quietly carrying this, and maybe they are even sure what to call it. What would you want her to hear from you today?
Well, I think, the truth is, you do not need anybody else's permission to call it abuse. If it feels wrong, if you feel small or trapped or constantly questioning your worth, that is enough. You don't have to wait for it to get worse. Your feelings are valid and your pain is real. You know, it is the beginning where you wake up to the truth. And that's the hardest thing of all. Because once you've made that decision, you don't need to have it all figured out, like I said. You just need to start. And I promise you, there is life beyond the pain. There is joy, there is clarity, there's peace, but most importantly, there is support. And you don't have to walk this road alone. You don't. There are people out there that have found their way back,
Mm,
like me, and we are here to show you that you can too.
that's very empowering, Amanda. Very empowering. And of course, if our listeners they would like to connect with you, reach out to you,
Yeah.
uh, what are the best ways?
Yes, on my website, which is amandajscott.com. And there I've got some blogs and things to read about. My book's on there, Finding My Way Back to Me, which is a quick and easy read, but is a very powerful reminder that we all deserve to be treated with kindness and respect.
Exactly.
And if anybody would want any support or help getting through it, please send me an email and I will personally reply to you. And yeah, because I know the courage it takes to say enough is enough. Because I lived it, and also I know uh, the freedom, and I know the love that is waiting on the other side.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yes, listeners, I'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. So, yes, just find them attached along with this episode on whichever podcast platform you are listening to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And Amanda, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your honesty, for your courage, for the work you do, and then also for reminding us that healing isn't something that happens to us. It is something that we slowly, sometimes quietly, we choose for ourselves. So thank you so much for this empowering.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, and thank you, listeners. And yes, healthy mind and a healthy life. That's yes, that number one thing. Number one thing. And it's yes, having I think the most important thing is remembering, constantly remembering that you deserve to be happy and that no one else's happiness is more important than yours. And that
Absolutely.
no one should live with being constantly disrespected in any situation at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mana. And thank you to all the listeners. If today's conversation touched something in you, I want you to know you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take one step toward yourself, and that's enough for today. And yes, this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I am Sana. Please take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.